Hello and welcome to another layout tutorial. In this video I'll run you through the step-by-step guide to creating some cracking realistic scenery. Featuring all the usual stuff you'll find along most railway embankments, this tutorial is sure to give you some great ideas that you can add to your own model railways or dioramas. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. As always, the open frames of the layout are closed in using Celotex sheeting. I always found decorator's cork to be the best adhesive, just for its simple instant grab and strong bond. A quick simple bead added to the frames and the Celotex is then just pressed down into place. To build up the landscape I've opted to use polystyrene sheets, all in various thicknesses. The first sheet is then stuck directly on top of the Celotex, and again just using the cork as an adhesive. The larger piece is then cut to size just to build up the embankment. A hot wire cutter makes short work of shaping the polystyrene, and certainly makes a lot less mess than sculpting Celotex into a desired shape. Just keep carving away until the profile looks good. Have you seen in all my previous videos, I do love to use sculptor mould. Once it's been mixed into a consistency of cottage cheese, I literally just slap it on and then just manoeuvre it all into shape. As it starts to go off, I can then get back into reworking it further with a splash of water and just rubbing it out smooth. With the sculptor mould now fully dry, it's ready for a coat of paint. A mix of burnt umber, yellow and white, these are just mixed together to create a nice toffee colour shade. I apply this liberally over all of the white plaster, making sure that none of it's left exposed. With this paint, this will just help the dirt texture, make sure you get a nice solid cover and that no plaster is exposed after the dirt texture is applied. To create a real looking dirt texture, I use real soil from the garden, which has been mixed with a dash of beige grout. The soil is fully dried out and sifted down into two grades, coarse and fine. The coarse dirt contains less grout, which adds some variation and gives the appearance of a subsoil texture. I also dilute Mod Podge down into a ratio of around about 4 parts water to 1 part glue, which is a perfect mix to using a mist bottle. To start off, the whole surface is then coated with a neat coat of glue. Using the glue neat at this stage will also help the larger boulders stick to the embankment sides. However, most of the large boulders will roll to the bottom, which isn't a problem. With the coarse dirt down, a layer of fine dirt is also dusted over the whole area. Here I find the Woodland Scenics Accent Shakers do the job perfectly well. And once all the dirt is down, everything is then misted with isopropyl alcohol. Once the scene is soaked up with the alcohol, it's then given a good coat of the scenic glue. When it comes to scenics, the more products used, the better the final result will be. With a range of static grasses, polyfibre, knock leaves and a whole range of turfs and scatters being used. And of course no scenery is complete without flowers from the Woodland Scenics field grass system. One of my favourite materials is burnt grass, coarse and fine turf from the Woodland Scenics range. I start off with the coarse turf, which is pressed down into the landscape and spread around. With the fine turf, this is applied using the shaker, and this is just dusted over just to give a nice little green tone to the dirt texture. Yellow fine turf is also sprinkled on in areas where I plan to add grass. And this will just add to the tone of the grass later on. With the first stage of static grass, I'm going to be using a 2mm straw from the green scene range, and this is applied by sifting over areas where I plan to grass. Doing this will create the effect of dried thatch that's often found at the base of all grass. And the final thing at this stage is just a simple brown scatter from knock. This is just sprinkled over areas where I'd be planning to put all trees, bushes and brambles. Once all this is in place, everything is then fixed down by just misting everything with isopropyl alcohol and then just followed by a scenic glue. Before I fill the scene with grass, first up I want to create some areas of nettles. For this I'm using a blend of 6mm brown static grass from Model Scene Scenics and 7mm dark green from Woodland Scenics. This is blended together and the applicator loaded. Using Woodland Scenic static glue, I apply small random spots in areas of interest. Just a few small spots is more than enough. And the grass is then shaken over the wet glue, aiming for a full cover. With the grass down, the excess can then be collected by either turning the model upside down and shaking it off, or in this case using the hoover with a stocking over the nozzle just to gather it all up to be reused later on. Using Wildflower Scenics layering spray, I did another layer on top. Spraying close up will prevent the glue from covering areas where I don't want it. And the grass is then added. For the leaves, I'm just using a mid and dark green leaves from Knock. The best results, the two are mixed together. And these are then just fixed into place just using a layering spray. Now it's time to lay down the main grass. For this I continue to use the same static grass as I have done for the rest of the layout, and this is a 4 and 6mm summer and a 6mm straw from Green Scene. Before I lay the glue down, it's best to get the applicator ready, and this is loaded up with a 6mm summer. The glue is spread out across the area using a brush just to help. For best results, be as random as possible. With a small section ready, the applicator is fired up and away you go. All excess is then hoovered straight away, and don't forget the stocking just to collect it up for later use. As this is a fairly big area, I work in stages, doing small sections at one time, as the glue will dry quite quick. The second size of 4mm summer is added around the outer edges in random areas. And I also blend around the areas where the nettles are. Everything is then covered once again in the 4mm and then all excess hoovered up. Using the layering spray, I'll do a few random spots. And then give a quick pass with some 6mm straw. With the use of the Woodland Scenics fill grass hues, the static grass can be enhanced even further. Using the accent shakers, I use the green just to add some shading. And this works really well just to blend the areas of the nettles into the surrounding grass. Once shaken on, just a quick brush over with a finger will push the hues down. The red hues are also there just to create the red tones towards the base of the grass, and the same process here is just repeated as before. You can also create the grass that's gone to seed by using the beige colour ones. This is done by hitting straw colour grass with a layering spray, and once again just use the accent shakers to sprinkle it over. At this stage I add a few more leaves just to the area of where the nettles are. No scene is complete without wildflowers. And once again, these are applied in random areas. And just to enhance the flowers, I also use some more knock leaves, and these are sprinkled around the flowers. Brambles or vines are nice and easy to make just using the Woodland Scenics polyfibre. Just pull off a small piece and spray it into a very light woody colour brown. This is then teased out and glued down into a chosen spot. Then with a quick coat of layering spray, followed by some light green scatter and some Woodland Scenics fine turf weeds. Making trees is easily done with some good old seafoam. I find for best results is to soak the seafoam in a bowl of warm water for around about 10 minutes. Once dried, I'll remove all the little bits of leaves and any other unwanted material. I like to refine the canopies of my trees, and this is done by just removing several branches to thin the sea foam down. All the leftover bits can easily be used for small saplings, so do avoid throwing them away. For the foliage, I'm using two blends. This is dark green knock leaves with burnt grass coarse turf, and a light green leaves with a dark green coarse turf. You want to use a strong adhesive, and I find the 3M perfect for the job. The sea foam is liberally coated in glue, then the coarse turf is simply pressed on. Another coat of spray glue, and then the tree is covered with the leaves. And to remove the tackiness of the glue, a quick spray of matte varnish is sprayed over the whole tree. You'll be surprised just how many trees it'll take to fill up a scene, so do make sure you make more than you actually think you need. Fixing them into the landscape is easy. All I do is just make a hole with a small screwdriver and place all the trees in. I put them all in their rough positions, and at this point I don't glue anything in just in case I decide to move it later on. I also aim to place them in areas where there is less grass, as typically grass doesn't grow much around the base of large areas of trees. Once I'm happy with the positions, I then remove each tree and then glue them in using a matte Mod Podge glue. To finish off, some more brown scatter is also added around the base of each tree. One of the most common wildflowers seen everywhere is cow parsley. This is easily created with some pieces of sea foam, knock, dark green leaves and some woodland scenic white flowers. Using some 3M spray glue again, I missed a piece of sea foam, and this is then just dipped into the flowers. Then, with the piece held upside down, the leaves are added. Just be sure to spray it in a matte varnish to remove the tackiness of the glue once the whole thing's dry. These can then be cut into small pieces and placed around the scene. To make sure these are fixed in place, I just use a layering spray once the plant is actually in position. To make some fantastic realistic bushes is a nice simple process. I've recently picked up this new Pro Grass box from WW Scenics, which is a perfect thing to make clumps. As I'm making bushes, I'll be using the same grass as I did for the nettles earlier on, and you'll also need some greaseproof paper and some tough tack glue. I spread spots of glue on the paper and aim for each spot to just be around about the size of a 5p piece. Just remember to space each one out. The two colours of grass are placed onto the plate, and with the crocodile clip attached to the paper we can switch it on and just watch the bushes grow. Just hold it above the plate and the grass will fly up and stick into the glue. Once dried, I build up another 1 or 2 layers by brushing some white glue over the clumps. And again, holding above the grass box, the bushes are layered up. To finish off, these are then given a coat of layering spray, and using 2 colours of scatter from G Model Miniatures, these are then sprinkled on top. Making buddleia is a nice simple process. Here I start with just using some jute or sisal string, and these are cut into lengths of around 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Mitofast super glue is added just to one end to keep everything together whilst we unravel all the string. Once the glue is dried, it's just a case of untwisting the strands fully. With each strand being teased out until you end up with a nice bushy base. I then give it a coat of glue just before adding some static grass from the grass box. And at this point the bush is sprayed brown. Once again, knock leaves are used, and these are sprinkled over the bush without any glue. The leaves will naturally fall to the centre of the bush, leaving the outer stems nice and clear. I found the right colour of the flowers quite hard to find, however I did find these from the Woodland Scenics range. This is from their pollen range and is aimed towards the paper flower craft market. I blend the two together and the colour is spot on. Another quick spray and the bush is then dipped into the flowers, and the long protruding stems will pick up all of the flowers. I also like to lock everything in just with a quick spray of matte varnish. With a pair of scissors I trim the glue tip off the end, and then trim to any acquired size ready for the scene. A spot of white glue is more than enough just to hold them in place. And other bushes are easily made by adding more leaves or even different colour flowers. With the closing scene now coming together, we're ready to put all the bushes into place. They peel off nice and easy, and with a spot of white glue are then just simply stuck down. I also place smaller ones into clumps, and with another quick spray of layering spray, more scatter is added just to blend the lot together. And there we go, that's the scene now finished. Thoroughly enjoyed building this area, and as you can see by the amount of layers, it took some considerable time to make and to film as well. I'm certainly going to be looking forward to running trains up and down this, and it's going to make for some great running shots. I've also raised the bar just a little bit more from the riverside, so I've got to return back to that at some point just to add some of the finer details in there as well. Hopefully you've taken a tip or two from this that you can use on your own model railways as well. But as always, I'm going to leave the video there, and thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all again soon.